you see? I'll put a picture. Hey everyone, and welcome to my channel. I'm Nikki, and today's video is just gonna be a quick one where I am talking about something I haven't really mentioned before on my channel, and that is creatine. I just actually started it for the first time 30 days ago. I wanted to do a full month before I even really gave any like feedback or pretty much just talked about my experience because I wanted to give it enough time to just be in my system and see how it worked. And now I'm going to be giving you guys the recap of the last 30 days and why I started taking creatine. If you enjoy this video or find it helpful, please go ahead and give it a like and subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it. And let's get started talking about creatine. So I have seen stuff all over the internet about creatine, especially with my interest in weightlifting, and it's something that I've always heard is the most researched product and it has so many benefits, but another thing that I always heard was that it causes a lot of bloating and then it can cause weight gain. So there have been some like controversial takes about it that have kind of just kept me away from even trying it because I was nervous about the bloating and just the effects of what it could do. Although it did sound like the benefits were really great. So on the front of this, which this is actually the creatine I've been taking, I did some research and pretty much have found that the most important thing is to just use creatine monohydrate if you're just using it for the basic needs or the basic like uses of it. And so that's the one I chose. I went with this brand Legion. I was just able to get it off of Amazon, but it's just their micronized creatine monohydrate. It is a white powder and it comes with a scoop that is 5 milligrams. And technically the serving you're supposed to take is 5 milligrams a day. And I'll get more into that as we talk about it and what serving I've been taking. On their packaging specifically, it says that creatine boosts muscle and strength gain. It enhances post-workout recovery and it improves muscular endurance. The suggested use is to mix 1 scoop with 10 to 12 ounces of water, protein shake, or any beverage of your choice and take whenever you prefer. Take daily for optimal results. And this has 100 servings in it. So I started taking this a month ago. What I did, I was just gonna take it in the morning with a glass of water, but the first day alone, I actually experienced some pretty intense bloating, and I don't know if it was just a mental thing or what, but I did a 5-gram scoop. I said milligram earlier, I think. I meant to say 5-gram scoop. I did a 5-gram scoop, and I think it was just like too harsh on my stomach at first. I don't really know. What I started doing is actually splitting up the dose. Actually, the second day, I already had started doing that. So I started doing 2.5 grams in the morning when I got home from the gym, and then I would do 2.5 grams with my dinner. The reason I did this is I also found that I think it was just better to not have it on an empty stomach. So I would have it with my breakfast and then with dinner, and I found that that's been working best for me. And I've just consistently done that for about 30 days now. And I had a couple reasons that I wanted to start taking creatine. Like I said, I've heard a lot of positives about it in general and that it is the most studied supplement. It wasn't something that I thought I needed, but I was honestly just curious about what benefits I could get from it and if it would be worth it. So I'm gonna go through just by each week kind of what I thought of it and like what I saw happening. And at the end, I'll go through some pros and cons and if I plan to stay on it. But the reasons I really wanted to take it was I wanted an extra boost of endurance at the gym. I've heard that it gives people just that little push to, even when you're doing some type of exercise, get those last 2 reps out. It kind of helps with that little burst of endurance. So I was kind of hoping for that benefit. I was also hoping for some mental clarity. I've heard a lot of positive things about creatine helping with your mental clarity and just being able to like think clearer. So I was hoping that maybe that could help. Another thing is that when you're taking creatine, you need to stay hydrated. And I figured that if I started taking it, maybe it would help me prioritize my water intake because to be honest, I've kind of been struggling to just stay on top of drinking enough water every day. So I thought that maybe that would be a little extra motivation to keep me on track. And then I also heard that it's beneficial for recovery, which overall in general, it helps with your muscle mass. And that's something that I prioritize going to the gym and lifting weights. And I could always use some help with recovery after a workout as well. So I was interested to see if that was something that would help too. But starting out with the first week, like I said, the first day I just did 5 grams at once and I found that it gave me some pretty sharp bloating pains. It almost felt like when I have like an artificial sweetener that upsets my stomach. It was kind of just like that and I felt like I could just like feel it in my stomach. And again, I don't know if that was just mental because I've heard things about creatine causing bloating and I was just maybe thinking that when I tried it. But because of it, I did look it up and they did say you could split up the servings online. So I decided to start doing half in the morning, half at night, and that that's really helped me a lot actually. Since then, I haven't had any of that intense bloating. So again, it could have just been a fluke thing on that first day, but I've actually preferred to kind of split up the doses, although it is harder for me to remember that I have to take it twice a day instead of just once. That's something to keep in mind, but if it's something you're interested in, but you're worried about the bloating, maybe spacing it out throughout the day can help, as long as you're getting the 5 grams in a day. That was the first thing that I did. Other than that, I didn't really notice many noticeable changes, other than I had to go to the bathroom a lot more. I had to keep peeing because I was drinking more water, and I think the creatine also just does that. So that was one of the things that I definitely noticed within the first couple days, but again, I was trying to make sure I was drinking about a gallon of water throughout the day, and that was making me have to run to the bathroom a lot more. So in the first week, those are the things I noticed the most. Then between week 2 and 3, it was kind of the same. I feel like I was starting to have that extra endurance at the gym where it felt like I could even go like a little bit heavier, even like 5 or 10 pounds on my squats and on like shoulder press and stuff. It did feel like I even had like a little extra confidence in using that extra weight, because usually it's like really pushing it, and I felt like I did get that extra boost. So I think that it was helpful when it came to my workouts at the gym, and I did start to notice more definition in my stomach out of everything. Now, I always do this where I decide to like change multiple things at once because I think I just start to feel motivated, and I don't know. I've really been prioritizing my walking, and to be honest, part of it has been after the accident. Walking's been one of the best ways for me to clear my head, or when I start to feel anxious or worked up or thinking about it, I just go on a quick walk and it's helped me a lot. But because of that, I've also upped my steps a lot, and I've been averaging like 13,000 steps a day, which is more than I usually do. So on top of taking the creatine, I have increased my steps, and I think that that's helped to really see more toning in my arms, especially. I haven't seen my arms this toned before, and I feel like it's partially just losing some fat from the extra walking, but it could also be the extra like puffiness or bloating in my muscles from the creatine, because that is kind of what happens. Which by the second week, I started to notice more definition in my stomach mostly, and it kind of did feel a little bit bloated, but then when I would look in the mirror, I didn't look bloated. So what the creatine does is it draws the extra water to your muscles, and it may kind of feel like it's bloating in your stomach, but it's not. And like I said, it felt it, but when I looked in the mirror, I was surprised every time, because I'd be like, oh, I feel like I'm gonna look so bloated, and then I would have like definition in my stomach, and it was really weird because I wasn't really used to that. It was a little extra bloating feeling that I wasn't used to, but also the definition was there too. So I felt like that was it really working, and I did feel like my muscles were just showing a little bit more. But again, I want to acknowledge that I was walking more too, and I have been walking more too. So I think that's a big part of it. Even like the muscles on my legs, I feel like I've been able to see a little bit more definition, but it's also because I've been more consistent with walking every single day. Both of those things, of course, I did at the same time, and I wish I wouldn't have, but at the same time, they've both been making me feel better. And I think that the creatine is just like one of those extra things in the background that's kind of just helped me a little bit, but it's not made like any crazy changes. So that was week 2 and 3. I also did notice that the scale started to go up, which I read about that, and it's a very common thing for the scale to go up about 5 pounds when you start taking creatine. And I have been fluctuating. It has kind of gone back down since, but it did go up that second week especially. I feel like I saw kind of a spike, and it was also around my time of the month, so that could be why as well. But I did notice that it was about a 5-pound gain, and I've kind of consistently been around there. Every day I step on the scale, it's kind of all over the place lately, but it's been within that 5-pound range. And so that's just another thing to keep in mind if you're interested in creatine, or maybe you've started taking it. It can cause a little bit of water retention and weight gain, but it's not fat that you're gaining on the scale. So that's important to remember, and it is something I have noticed, but I try to remind myself that even if the scale is going up, it doesn't define my worth, my progress. I can see I have other ways to measure it. So that's important during this time because it can get in your head when you see that happening. I feel like that's something that did come from the creatine. And now we're on to week 4. It's pretty much the end of the 4th week of taking it, and I really do enjoy it. I really think that, like I said, the biggest thing for me, and it's not even having to do with actually the benefits of the creatine, but because of how I am and knowing that when I'm on it, I need to stay hydrated, it has really kept me on track with my water goal, which is huge because it does make a difference when you're hydrated. I really try to prioritize that. And so that's been just like an extra bonus with the creatine, although it's not like a side effect from creatine. You just have to make sure you're drinking enough water. But I do like that I have felt that extra endurance in the gym. I've really felt some extra mental clarity, although it's been kind of tough. And again, I don't want to keep bringing up the accident, but the accident has been kind of hard on me mentally and made me kind of foggy and stuff. And that's all while I've been taking this creatine. And so I feel like it's given me some extra mental clarity, but at the same time, it's just been kind kind of a struggle lately, so it's kind of hard to compare and like correlate the creatine to that. So anyway, that's another benefit with it though. And with creatine, like I said, it's very highly studied and a lot of people associate it with weightlifting. So people take it if they're weightlifting because you're gonna get the most out of the benefits if you are doing some type of exercise. It doesn't have to be lifting weights. It could be yoga, it could be riding a bike, like different exercises that are using your muscles. They're gonna be beneficial with the creatine. So that is one thing, like when it comes to creatine and lifting weights where it's beneficial, but there are benefits to taking it even if you aren't active, although I definitely recommend being active to get the most benefits out of it. Even without being active, as you age, you start to have your muscle mass decline, and creatine can actually really help with that, with helping to maintain that muscle mass, even if you aren't working out. So it is very little the benefits you get from it, and you'll get way more if you actually are staying active and exercising, but that is something to mention. You don't just have to be lifting weights to take it. But the point of this video isn't even really to promote creatine. I think that it's really a case-by-case basis, and whether or not you want to take it, I feel like you should evaluate that. I think that it's beneficial for a lot of people, but it really is like a personal thing if you want to start doing it. And for me, it's been something that's kind of just helped me stay more on track. Even when I used to drink greens every day, which I don't really do anymore, that just helped me stay so on track. Every morning I would just start the day with that, and then it would get me drinking water and eating healthy, and I just like felt good about these good habits, and that was one of those habits. So that's kind of how I felt with creatine, is that it's like one of those extra things that makes me feel good, stay on track. It's keeping me drinking my water, and then there's some small benefits with it, but it hasn't been anything crazy where it's given me some like crazy transformation. I remember a couple years ago on TikTok, I would see like, I took creatine 30 days ago, and then you'd see their butt like double in size, and that's not what happens at all. You can definitely get some increased muscle mass from the creatine, and I have noticed that, but it's not gonna be some crazy transformation if you start taking it. I just wanted to share my experience with it because it has been really interesting, and I do think that it's made a difference. Like I said, have noticed some mental clarity with it, and it is helpful for brain health. So there's a few different reasons people take it and start to incorporate it, but this is just why I did and my experience with it so far. There really are more pros than cons for me. I would say the only con is that if I take the full serving, because like sometimes I've forgotten to and I've taken the whole thing, and then it kind of has caused a little bit more bloating, that's kind of a con to taking it. But other than that, I really haven't noticed much. I just need to make sure I stay hydrated because that can not be good for like my kidneys and stuff if I don't. But anyway, it's really helped me to stay on track with that. I have noticed some differences with the definition of my muscles and stuff, and that's just been my personal experience on it. So I plan to continue taking it, again, a half dose in the morning, half dose at night. I think I'm just gonna keep up with that and see where it goes. I don't plan to have some crazy transformation from it. That's not why I'm taking it. It's more just for those little benefits and just to help me stay on track with my habits. So I hope you guys found this video interesting and helpful. If you did, please go ahead and give it a like and subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it. I'd love to hear your guys' experiences with creatine if you have, or if you take it. I'm curious to hear what you've thought about it as well. So be sure to leave some comments below. I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.